Okay, so in this last session, we're going to fiddle around a little bit with the operator that we've created right now. I'm going to briefly show you some effects and what you can do and how you can think with them. And then, well, it's basically up to you to play around and find some other interesting things and to build it into one digital asset or something if you like. Okay, we have like all our fuses over here, which already has been used to get like this reduction effect. So we're going to remove this. I'm going to play around with something else, which is like a transform node, which is also very interesting. Now the transform, since we have like a box in this case, and the center is over here, it is a good idea to put, in this case, the transform on the transform position in the center location. So that if we are going to change it, and let's make sure that we set it to the proper effect. So if we're going to change it, that we can play around, and as you can see, what kind of cool effects that you can create just by rotating, for example, the color spectrum and translating it back into something that is useful. So there are like a tremendous amount of possibilities over here. Keep in mind also that if you use, for example, on the cylinder, the same effect, that you have to change your pivot again differently because everything is placed around the center. So in this case, let's play around a little bit with the U values of the whole thing. As we can see over here, so I'm just rotating the U values. But you can of course start to rotate in all kinds of interesting directions as well to get also the most bizarre kind of looking things. And it doesn't limit you to what we see right here. So what we can do, of course, is do some scaling as well to make like values brighter or weaker, or scale around one axis, and also just to move around things. You can move it into totally different kind of spaces, and you know that the further you're away from the center, the brighter it becomes. So again, this shows you the incredible power that you have right now over your color space. And of course, it's not limited to these tools only. So let's switch these off as well. You can use, for example, smoothing. And smoothing is quite interesting because, again, depending on the kind of color space you're in, it's going to give like a totally different kind of result. So if we're over here in the the UV space, the U saturation value space, then we know that the U is going on, it's running over the x-axis. And so it means like all the colors are represented over here. So now in this case, we have the dress of the girl and we have her skin color a little bit more to this side. And the moment we start to smooth actually these values, they're going to be pulled together. And so we're going to see like this very strange rainbowish kind of effects the moment we start to use smoothing on that part. So let's switch this on and see what the result is. Set to the proper channel, and as you can see, we get like this rainbowish like effect. So this is kind of a unique smoothing function, as you can say, with just something like that. It might also be, of course, a choice. If you want to smooth, you can do your smoothing right over here, and you can smooth inside the RGB values, and this is going to give you a much more consistent thing, especially with smoothing. because RGB is like nicely represented. We don't have like round tripping colors. These are actually just each their separate values. What else can I show? Well, other things which are also interesting to use is, for example, a twist or a bend. Let's use a bend. The bend function. Let's see what the bend does on these colors over here. Now I'm going to switch off the visualization because I want to see the colors themselves. And we're also going to change the position where this takes place. So in this case, the capture origin is going to be 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. And the capture direction is fine. So that's all good. So let's start to twist. Twist, twist, twist. And the moment you start to twist, you see like all these colors being bent into a different direction. So everything which is on the lighter side over here, because they're being pulled forward, they're turning into a different kind of color. So you can overdo it, you can see what the result is going to be like. So you get like this really interesting kind of effect. And of course you can always do this on the different color spaces as well and see what their effects are. So in this case, the same positioning. Set the input to 1 and see what the bending does over here. There's hardly any difference, oddly enough. And the reason is because we only see the effect near the very end. I'm going to change the capture origin here in the Z direction, so we see more of the effect appearing like this. Perhaps I could do it over here as well. That's a first. This is interesting. It's almost similar to the RGB value. Okay, but for sure this is something I want to change. The capture direction, let's put this into the Y direction. So now we get like this gold kind of effect over here. Let's see what it does in RGB space. Must be different. It's not. Of course it's not different. Because my mistake was that I was doing the bending right after putting everything back to RGB values, so therefore it was indeed the same. So this is much better. This is actually what I had in mind. So now you can see like a real difference because of the different setting over here. A last one that I'm going to show is for example the magnet. So let me skip the setup of this because that's not really interesting. So we've added a magnet over here, and now we can see what we can do with the magnet if we start to deform it. So you have now a local effect on the colors. So everything which was already a little bit darker is now being moved. We can make it brighter, we can set it into other kinds of directions. We can move it upward. So it's becoming more saturated. And again, we get something which is like a very special image coloring effect. So that's basically concluding the whole session over here. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it gives you like inspiration to create your own digital asset with it. And and I hope to see some great and cool things from it as well. So if you have something cool to share, please add a link